things that are important to me. For example, everything that we're doing here today, my alignment with Global Citizen, my alignment with UNICEF, to be able to give people as much information as I can in my little way from my experiences. But the fact that Global Citizen does this on such a large scale, and we've seen that with the progress that they have made. I mean, the urgency is right now, and this conversation is so interesting and so important at the moment. Just like Chris said earlier with Randolph, that it's people like Bill Gates, people like Warren Buffett have shown us that philanthropy and people can make phenomenal impact. People like that can make phenomenal impacts when they just take a little bit out of their immense wealth and help us make that difference. We are going to achieve them. They're not off the hook. They absolutely are not. They're just too slow. We are 5 years into this promise, and we're completely off track. We have 10 years, like they said, to make $350 billion annually to be able to reach a place where we can eradicate extreme poverty, and not even just poverty. Extreme poverty, which is people living under $1.90 a day. That's absolutely doable, and that's doable if we all take it upon our hands to implore the urgency upon people. And like you said, with my social media, I can do as little as I can. I can come here, have a conversation with all of you, and say this, but I think it's really, really important to move and shake and demand that change.
You said, speaking of this, you said, quote, philanthropy today has gone beyond just funding projects. Be disruptive, show compassion, care, be catalytic in our actions and solutions. History has shown us some incredible women who have been change agents, and most recently we've seen a lot of young women as well. Well, there be Malala on education, Greta Thunberg on climate change and action, really taking the lead in catalyzing global conversations and movements. We're seeing amazing women leading the charge. Why do you think this is? What opportunity does it represent for women specifically to really be this incredible force for connecting citizens around the world?
Well, first and foremost, thank God. I mean, thank God it's happening. High time. First and foremost, look, I do credit the fact that women always had voices. We were always talking, we were always demanding. There have been incredible women that have come before this generation that have demanded change. Women who fought for our right to drive, women who fought for our right to vote, women who fought for our right to have jobs. But still, we are in a place where, in many countries around the world, women make a third of what men make in the same jobs. There are places where women don't have a choice in their own lives, when they get married, when they have children, whether they can have the opportunity to get an education or not. I think what is amazing about this generation is that technology has given women the ability to have their voices heard. You know, when they are sitting and with the development of, or the invention of the internet, I think that women sitting in their homes, within the safety of their homes, have the ability to talk about their opinions, garner support. Another thing I think which is given the ability for young girls to not know a world where their voices are not heard, to not know a world where they have to be scared to talk in front of world leaders, is because the generation before us fought so hard to make sure that we collaborate with each other. Women aligning with women is one of the biggest reasons our voices are being heard, because we are creating opportunities. The lack of opportunity is what made women quiet. We used to have to fend and fight off each other to get that one job that 7 other men were up for. They had 7 jobs for men, but that one job for women. And we had to fight each other off and be mean to each other. But we've created those opportunities ourselves. Like if I talk about entertainment in my own business, you know, when there are not parts for girls that are written which are great, as good as men, women today call each other up and say, you know what, let's do it together. Let's just produce it together. That's the power of women coming together and standing up for each other. The second thing is, how technology really helps is finally we have a direct way to talk to you without men mediating in between and editing our voices. So, the direct ability to say, this is what I mean, and I don't need you to translate that.
If technology is such an empowering tool and it's really given a voice and a platform for many, who are voiceless for generations and centuries. But I want to talk a little bit about women and girls, because you may have access to those opportunities, but if you still face stigmas and biases, you're coming against institutional barriers, whether it be in education, health, issues of poverty and the like. And you've talked about the contrast of this in India, where you do have this extraordinary modernity coupled with still some of those traditional systemic barriers that make it difficult for women to access opportunity. You're someone who's an extraordinary role model in that country, and obviously on the world stage, though, of what a modern woman can look like, someone who has a voice and a career, and can achieve amazing success. Talk a little bit about what you hope to see for your country with women and girls, but also the role that you feel like you play in being able to shatter some of those stigmas and biases that are still so entrenched.
That's a very complicated question with no easy answer, first and foremost. I think that, I believe that modernity and tradition don't have to be enemies. I feel like modernity and tradition can go hand in hand. I feel like there are countries where culturally, the things that we have been raised with, which is India included, are very important to us as citizens. I believe in certain cultural aspects that have been taught to me by my parents and my grandparents, but at the same time I believe in being able to have a voice. And I feel like the world needs to reach that place where we can allow people to have cultural beliefs and traditions, but at the same time give them the opportunity to succeed. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And I feel like India is at a precipice of that, where we have this incredible young generation, and you can see that with everything that's happening in India right now. One of the youngest countries in the world, about 60% of the population being under the age of 35, coming onto the street and demanding a change. And that comes from us empowering our own girls. You will see the movement, like you said, you mentioned a lot of the girls, Greta, Nadia, Emma, and I can mention a bunch of girls from India that have come out there and stood up and said, I want change and I will demand it and I will be fearless, despite and in spite of all the restrictions. And I'm inspired by those girls. I mean, I don't know if I was, when I was 15 or 16, if I would have had the courage to do what all of these young girls are doing today. Today, I take inspiration from all of them to become a better activist, to become a better person, to become a better philanthropist. And I feel like it's so amazing to finally see the power that these girls are getting and the power that they have, because I sit back in my chair in my 30s and say, wow, if I had this empowerment at maybe 12, which I think in my own way I did with my parents, but if I had a world that looked like this, I could have said and been so much more. And if I feel that way, can you imagine the girls who have been completely marginalized? I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful time. It's a difficult time. But the fact that you can see so many women around the world standing up for themselves is very, very inspiring.
As we wrap up, one last question for you. Today we've talked about the multitude of stakeholders that need to be involved, government, private sector, individuals such as yourself with a huge voice and a huge platform. What's been your biggest lesson that you've learned personally around activating change and using your voice? And what's one piece of advice that you would give to aspiring change makers as they look to create a better world in the future?
Well, the one thing that I've definitely learned is a lot of people always say that, I'm just one person, what can I do? I'm just one person, what can I do? Each drop of water makes an ocean. Each one of us collectively coming together and having voices. There are 17 sustainable development goals. It's not 200, there's just 17. If we remember each one of them and see which ones are important to us, which ones affect us, our communities, and get behind it. Just find time in your life to have a little bit of compassion, give a little bit of your time. It doesn't have to be money that will change your lives, but the one thing I've learned is each person makes a difference. And if we look back into our own lives and into our own homes and ask ourselves, have we, in our own little way, touched the lives of one person at least? That's what's going to make your life successful. My mom always told me this, no matter how badly off you are in life, someone else is worse off than you. Just think about that. And the second thing, I feel like the advice, I don't think I can give any advice. I haven't really been able to contribute as much as so many other people around the world have, but the one piece of advice that I would give is, we're at the beginning of this new decade, and last year, 2019, was the second hottest year ever on record. We, in the history of humankind, are seeing the worst refugee crisis that we have ever seen. That's not okay. Like I said, you know, in many countries around the world, women get paid 1/3 of what men get paid. So if in an ideal world, I'd like to give advice to activists that are coming up, let's work towards achieving a world where when I speak to a refugee child and I say, you know what are your dreams? And that child says, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an engineer, or I want to be an astronaut. Let's bring the world to a place where that child's dream is achievable, where that child can get an education, where that child can have papers, where that child can actually have a future. I would love to get to a place where my children, when I have them, can grow up in a world where the world leaders have listened to Greta's generation, where the world leaders have paid attention to that generation. I want my kids to grow up in that world where the climate crisis is contained, if not averted. I want to be able to live in a place where a woman's ability to succeed should be a basic human right and not based on geography or chance. I guess that's the world I would like.
Well, thank you for your work so far. It's a powerful reminder that each of us can have a role to play, regardless of resources, platform. We all have opportunity, and thank you for the contributions that you made and the advice that I think all of us in this room can take to heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.